Hi, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I want to talk about creativity privilege, what it means to me, and some examples of how it has impacted my life. So, overall, I'm really excited to be talking about this topic because it has changed my life in so many ways that are just amazing. And if I tried to talk about all of it just in this one video, it would get to be like 2 or 3 hours long. So, what is creativity privilege? Creativity privilege is an unrecognized advantage you can have based on your imaginative mindset. So, a little about me. I have dealt with anxiety, things like intrusive thoughts, and what some would call like overthinking. But I've always been a very creative person, and sometimes it's even been to my detriment, where, in the past, I hadn't yet been able to make it into a positive attribute. So when I viewed my creativity as a bad thing, I would use up like way too much brain power for things like over analyzing my relationships, stressing out about the current state of the world, and wanting to start so many things up that I didn't start anything. Or maybe I wouldn't say that I didn't start anything, but more so that I didn't finish anything is what I'd say. So I take that back. But, I always felt like I had to have the most unique, the most selfless, and life changing ideas that, like, I would talk myself out of everything. I always felt like someone else had already talked about something, or somebody else from my school or my circle had already tried out a certain career. So I would act like, since I'm not curing cancer, I don't have valuable ideas. And I would say that starting this channel and already having 55 people subscribed and interested in what I have to say is enough proof to show that I was wrong. And I have to actually edit this from when I first started taking notes from when I first started taking notes for this channel, because I just checked and I actually have 157 subscribers, which is absolutely insane to me. So thank you for all the support. But by the way, since we are talking about creativity privilege today, let's practice. So we need a name for all of my subscribers. So I'd love it if you could drop some ideas down below. Also, check out my posts tab because I have a poll to vote on a few names that I came up with, but I would much rather prefer to use something that you guys come up with. So let's start thinking and drop some suggestions. So back to the video. Creativity privilege is being able to come up with topics to talk about and talk about something in a way that includes your own personal worldview. It's being able to think of a new product or a new method or even just like a new story. It's coming up with the next trendy hairstyle or like a unique method of doing one that already exists. It's being able to create 20 different outfits from like 7 pieces of clothing. Like, you ever seen those, like the capsule wardrobe, or the videos where let me stick to the capsule wardrobe for a moment. If you don't know what that is, that's basically when someone, instead of having like 50, 150 pieces of clothing in somebody's wardrobe, instead they have like staples. Like, they have a few like dresses. They get stuff where everything basically matches and they can mix and match type of thing. Um, it's like a minimalism type of way of styling yourself, I guess. Um, you know, people who do that, they are very creative. And then another thing that came to mind was I don't know if he, I don't know how old everybody who watches my channel is, but if you're around my age, you probably, well, I don't know. I'm sure they've been doing this forever. Um, when I grew up, we would, if we had like a camp shirt or something like that, we would always like roll it up and like to show our belly buttons and stuff. And we would tie it with like a rubber band or tie like a knot. And sometimes there would even be videos of girls on YouTube who would go viral where it was like them like cutting up a shirt and tying it and making the fringe and stuff and being like, 15 different ways to do your t-shirt or something like that. Stuff like that. Those girls, they have creativity privilege because they are most likely monetized on YouTube and getting paid AdSense money because they're teaching people how to cut up a cheap printed on t-shirt and turn it into a whole bunch of different, styles. Like, oh, I'm making it into a halter neck. Oh, I'm taking off the sides. I'm taking off the back. I'm making it a strip now. It's a crop top. People are actually looking for content like that, and if you're the one who gets to come up with it, then you're getting paid. So I also think that it's something like creativity privilege can show up in the sense of being able to come up with a remix to a song or even a different style of singing an old one. If you've ever seen those people that would be like, they're taking some sort of popular song and they do a couple bars as like a punk rocker or as like a emo person, and then they do it like screamo, and then they do it as somebody who's like um off key, then they do it as somebody who's singing gospel, that type of thing. Like those, that's creativity. And there's been people who come up with remixes to songs, and even if they don't release it as its own song, well, they get the option to do that eventually. They just post it as a video, or even those like, oh, duet me acting, or duet me what else, like singing and stuff like that, or rapping, open verse. Those types of videos are made for people who want to flex their creativity privilege. Creativity privilege can also show up as being able to come up with a new idea for a business or a new idea for how to run an old one. So being able to like modernize or improve, like make an old business better, like an old business model. Say, oh, this is a better way to do it. You can get more profit, you can cut more corners, but keep the quality up this way. You can automate it this way. You can integrate AI or something. That is creativity privilege, being able to even create that in your mind as an option to pursue, to try to execute, to try to bring it to completion. I'm sorry, my voice is kind of raspy. To bring it to completion. So if you think of yourself as someone who liked to play as a child, you probably have this privilege, or at least the potential to build and then stack this privilege. Also, I've always personally like had a whimsical way about myself. It like when it comes to mythical creatures, everybody will be like, oh, I see myself as like a vampire, or oh, I see myself as like a siren or something like that. I always kind of see myself as like a siren or even like a nymph. And I love lore and mythology. I think of my life as magical and like unbelievable. When they talk about like, oh, Delulu is the Solulu, when they're talking about that, they're not just talking about like tricking yourself into or like deluding yourself into thinking that you have more progress than you actually do. The way I take that is more so like you watch all these movies, like you see all these people, these videos of people being able to be successful at the thing that you would like to be successful at. So why are you just like, why do you, why not just believe that it is possible in your world where the next person, I heard somebody the other day, they were talking about how oh, they don't like to read certain books where people have certain professions, and it was like aspirational professions and stuff like that. And I just kept thinking like, that's interesting that to you being successful is unrealistic. That's basically what it came off like. So you think being successful is unrealistic, and having a circle of people, a community of people who are successful, like that's unrealistic. And I don't believe that. Like me personally, I like to go to networking events. I like to network, and I'm working on leveling up my finances and everything. And I find myself in those rooms where I'm with people where I can soak up, and people are very successful. They've accomplished as much as I have and much more. So I just thought that, that kind of is reflective of your world view. Like it, for your own vision for your life, can you create something that's desirable? Can you create, goals that, because the thing is, some people, they're not even going to set the goal. Like, okay, for example, let's take something like weight loss. Let's say that, like, one way that creativity privilege can help you is that, or I would say the way that people who don't have creativity privilege are held back is that, let's say somebody's like 465 pounds, and, or let's say you take two people who are 465 pounds. I know I'm all over the place, but one of them who doesn't have creativity privilege, they might say, okay, I just want to get down to 400 pounds, versus the one who has creativity privilege is like, okay, I may be 465 pounds right now, but I could easily get down to 130. And they just create that version of themselves like, oh, there's a skinny version of me somewhere. And I just need to, free her, need to let her out type of thing. That's creativity privilege, because you're creating something that you don't see. You only see fat you right now, but you're creating in your mind, there is a skinny fine version of me. So I'm going to bring that girl to life. That's creativity privilege, believe it or not. And me, I love this topic because I've always had huge ideas or amazing adventures that I wanted to go on. And, you know, when I became an adult, I started to actually have them. And I've traveled to different parts of the world, and I still have many more places I want to go. My creativity has allowed me to maximize the impact of every idea, every resource, and every interaction I have ever had, because creativity privilege is one of my favorite things to talk about. And, because I just wish more people knew about this. Like, or the reason I'm sharing this is because I wish more people knew about it. I really do. It's really amazing the places it can take you to. It's absolutely like you wouldn't believe it as you develop it. But what do you think, ladies? Is there a particular aspect of creativity privilege you'd like me to cover? How have your creative abilities been able to impact your life? Let me know in the comments down below. Until next time, ladies, eyes on the prize.